I can't believe I'm about to ask this question. Are law school loans going to be forgiven? The mere fact I'm asking this question is blowing my mind and leaves me speechless, but there are so many questions that are running through my mind. When are we going to find out? What's going to happen? How did we get here? What do we do? What do we strategize about? What's happening? Who? Welcome to Law Venture. My name's Jarrett Stone. I'm the owner of Stone Firm P LLC, and I'm the proud recipient of law school debt. Yeah, that probably wasn't going where you thought it was going. So law school debt is a little weird because it's almost like a rite of passage in order to become a lawyer, but it's that rite of passage that kind of brings tears to your eyes whenever you talk about it, and it's a sensitive subject, but here I am talking about it right now. And what's actually really surprising is that the Federal Reserve came out with a statistic saying that about 70% of people who are 44 and younger that go to grad school most likely accrue some degree of debt. Look, I'm not sure about you, but for me, that is a shockingly high number, and it's not too big of a leap to say that a lot of people, most people who go to law school end up accruing debt as well. So if you're like me to where you're a lawyer or maybe a law student that has taken on a federal student loan in order to help pay for law school, then there's some glimmer of hope because President-elect Joe Biden has said that the government should forgive a minimum of $10,000 per person of federal student loans. I'm pretty sure your lawyer brain is working like my lawyer brain to where you're honing in on a few words here, but in this tweet we see minimum. So it gives us the possibility, gives us the flexibility of maybe getting more than $10,000 per person. So from doing my own research, it looks like the consensus is that the highest probability of a degree of forgiveness would be that $10,000 amount. And then a lower, and I would say substantially lower probability would be $50,000 in forgiveness. And the lowest probability, and I would say this is a long shot of happening, would be 100% forgiveness and cancellation of student loan debt. All of which seem to be on the table to some degree, and obviously there's different probabilities for each one. So it's something to keep in mind as you're strategizing, but we'll talk about strategies in a little bit. Another part of the tweet that stands out is the should. It's one thing to want to forgive student loan debt. It's another thing to be able to actually do it. Fortunately, I don't have to do too much legal research on this topic because the Legal Services Center of Harvard Law School has done it for me. In fact, the Legal Services Center of Harvard Law School, which is a mouthful to say, so I'll just say Harvard, ended up concluding that we don't have to wait for Congress to finally agree on something. Instead, Harvard says that the Secretary of the United States Department of Education can exercise his or her existing authority to cancel federal student loan debt on a broad or categorical basis. This is because Harvard ended up concluding that such broad and categorical debt cancellation would be a lawful and permissible exercise of the Secretary's authority under existing law. That's big news, and I'll admit it, that's where a lot of my hope is coming from. And for my super nerds out there that want to check it out themselves, I'll be sure to link to this letter down below in the description. By the way, if you've accrued student loan debt, then be sure to hit the like button down below to help support somebody who's in the exact same boat. So I'm gonna go ahead and white knuckle this hope because it may be possible for student loan forgiveness to happen. The question is, will it? And unfortunately, there's a debate going on right now of whether or not any degree of forgiveness will be beneficial to the economy as a whole. Based on my own Google searches, I saw economists were all over the spectrum on whether or not forgiveness would be beneficial for the economy. And I'm not here to argue against economists. Instead, I want to provide a little bit of context given my own personal experience. So let's get started by talking about numbers. If there's a $10,000 forgiveness for federal student loans, and we, let's just say, use the average interest rate for the last 20 years on federal student loans, which is around 6.22%, and we also assume the standard loan repayment plan is 10 years, then in reality, the $10,000 forgiveness is closer to $13,455 worth of forgiveness once you include the interest. But more importantly, this means that the person with the federal student loan that borrowed the money will end up saving about $112 per month. Now, I know hearing $112 per month saved sounds like a drop in the bucket, doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I actually disagree because that $112 is potential to get more money, to really change somebody's life. You may think I'm spewing nonsense or I'm talking abstract, so let's make it more concrete to my specific situation. If you've been keeping up with the Law of Venture channel, you know that over a year ago, I decided to branch out and go solo, start my own virtual law firm. If you don't know what a virtual law firm is or why it's beneficial, I'll slide a video above so you can click that and check it out and come back here. But whenever I decided to go virtual, it was all about keeping my expenses at a bare minimum. In fact, I released another video, a subsequent video that is hopefully sliding up above right now, to where I explained and walk you through exactly how I spend just under $125 per month in order to keep the virtual office up and running. And it really is something that changed my life. So during that first year of going solo, by investing less than $125 per month in order to keep the virtual law firm up and running, that investment paid off dividends, exponential dividends. And what I mean by this is that by the end of that first year, I made substantially more money than I was making as an associate attorney at my previous law firm. So based on my own experience, I can't help but wonder that if people are saving $112 per month because of this $10,000 forgiveness, whether or not they can take that extra money, turn it into actual potential that pays off down the road by maybe going solo and taking their career to the next level. Plus, I see this as a win-win because not only am I making more money, I'm also being taxed more as well. So that's a benefit to Uncle Sam too. So taking the benefits of this concept, I think those benefits would be more amplified if we talk about $50,000 of forgiveness. Specifically, if we have $50,000 in forgiveness and we also assume the 6.22% in interest, then in reality, the $50,000 over a 10-year period is actually a forgiveness of $67,277. And that $50,000 in forgiveness would translate to about $561 per month saved. And that could be a game changer because not only could you go solo, but you could also have a marketing budget as well. Quick side note, I actually have substantially less than $50,000 in law school debt. I'm very fortunate for that. I actually paid off one of the 3 loans earlier this year. But I just want to make it clear, I'm by no means the kind of person who's like, well, if I can't get the full 50, then I don't want anybody else to. Honestly, I can't even really relate to that line of thinking. The more, the merrier. There are so many questions because we haven't really gotten too many details about this particular subject. And so I want to pose these questions so you kind of know what to be on the lookout for, what to maybe strategize for, and what to consider whenever you're deciding how you want to pay or maybe not pay specific student loans. For example, we don't know what kind of federal student loans would end up being forgiven or canceled. What I mean by this is it could be all student loans across the board, or it could just be undergrad, or maybe it's just graduate school. We don't know. I'm also curious on how the forgiveness would apply to people with multiple student loans. For example, in the law school context, we typically have at least 3 student loans, 1 for each year. So would forgiveness just be per the person, or would forgiveness be maybe all across the board for each particular loan? Then the next question is, how would the forgiveness apply to maybe which particular loan? Do you have to spread it out evenly, or can you put, let's say, the $10,000 forgiveness towards the loan with the highest interest rate? Still, don't have any answers to that one either. So what do we do until we get more answers? Well, there are 3 strategies that I plan on implementing that you should consider. First, do not, please do not refinance your federal student loan into a private loan. The federal student loan, owned by the government. The private loan, not owned by the government. So whatever federal forgiveness is going on, it's only going to apply to federal student loans, not private loans. Now, the big benefit with the refinancing and maybe going private is getting lower interest rates. But right now, we are currently in forbearance. So if it's a matter of making payments, that's not an issue at this point in time. Keeping in mind, last I saw, the forbearance point was extended to January 31st of 2021. Second, I'm honestly not making any payments until forbearance is over. And once forbearance is over, then I'm gonna only make minimum payments until we get more information. Or if we get more information before forbearance is over, then maybe I'll pivot and adjust my plan. My hope here is that by not making any payments at this point in time, if there, knock on wood, is a $50,000 forgiveness, then that's going to wipe my slate clean. The last thing I want to do is to basically cut the legs out from under me by making payments during this point in time. And I know $50,000 is a long shot, but the fact that there is some possibility has me intrigued to where I don't really lose too much by not making payments at this point in time. Third, if we're past the point of forbearance and then we're also at a point where I'm having to pay minimum payments, keeping in mind in my situation, I'm ahead of schedule. So if forbearance ends January 31st, 2021, then I probably don't have to pay minimum payments for a little bit because again, I'm ahead. But once I'm required to start making minimum payments, then I'm gonna go a little bit on the offensive to where I'm making minimum payments on one loan, but the other loan that has the highest interest rate, I'm gonna put a little extra money towards it to go kind of on the offensive to attack it. Because as Google has taught me, if you attack the loan with the highest interest rate, no matter the amount that that loan has, in the long run, that's gonna save you the most money. If my math is wrong and if the Google searches were showing me the wrong math, I'm more than open to getting your thoughts, and be sure to leave those in the comments down below. But the point here is, as I'm going on the offensive, as I'm attacking, once that loan gets close to $10,000, then I'm going to start attacking the other loan, because if there is a $10,000 forgiveness, I don't want to cut the legs out from under me. I want to be able to get the full $10,000 without having to overpay on my student loans. Whew. We are talking about a lot, but we're basing it on very little information. We're actually basing it on just hopes and dreams over here. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, theories, strategies, or if you just want to say hi, leave those in the comment section down below. And if you're still watching, don't forget to hit that like button. I salute you, I appreciate you. And if you're very interested in this topic, money, law, we got the money background, then be sure to subscribe to see future videos.